Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel, Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Today we're diving into a single sentence that shook the timeline, sparked 1,000 theories, and reminded the industry that self-respect can trend just as fast as scandal. If you enjoy thoughtful deep dives into your favorite stars, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and, if you want to support us even more, click the join button below. Thank you, and let's get into it. The spotlight falls on Elçin Sangu, an actress whose name carries a rare combination of elegance and credibility. Late one night, without teasers or countdowns, she posted a brief message across her social platforms, a line about betrayal that read like a verdict. It wasn't an essay, not even a paragraph, just a short sentence with the force of a slammed door: cheaters lose her, and they lose for good. No tags, no initials, no winks. The post arrived like a bell and then it was gone, leaving the echo to do the rest. Within minutes, the reaction became a textbook study in how digital culture metabolizes ambiguity. Fan accounts clipped the line into graphics and quote cards. Comment sections split along familiar seams, those who wanted names, those who wanted answers, and those who wanted to send hugs. Media blogs pushed out "what did she mean" pieces, while panel shows booked last-minute segments to decode the tone, the timing, even the font choice. Meanwhile, Elçin did what very few public figures manage to do when the internet pulls at their sleeve: nothing. No follow-up. No clarifying thread. No second post to soften the blow. She let the sentence stand. To understand why that approach worked, you have to remember how Elçin has navigated attention for years. She doesn't manufacture drama. She doesn't throw open the doors to her private life. She curates, not to hide, but to keep the emphasis where she believes it belongs, on the work. That's why the message felt larger than gossip. It read as a principle, not a performance. For some, it was an anthem. For others, a mirror. In the 48 hours that followed, the conversation developed a timeline of its own. First wave: shock and solidarity. Messages flooded in from fans who've watched her carry complex characters with a stillness that makes scenes vibrate. "You taught me boundaries," one comment read. "You made it okay to walk away from what doesn't respect me," wrote another. Second wave: speculation. People combed through old interviews, publicity shots, and event footage, as if a tabloid calculus could turn sight lines and seating charts into proof. Third wave: critique. A handful of voices argued that any public talk of betrayal courts exactly the circus the message seemed to reject. But a curious thing happened: by refusing to feed the rumor machine, she starved it. In the absence of a specific target, the story migrated toward the universal. If you track the ripples beyond social media, you can see how a sentence becomes strategy. Publicists who work with A-list talent will tell you that the most effective statements are the ones with edges, firm enough to set a boundary, broad enough to avoid a lawsuit. "Cheaters lose me" does both. It affirms a value without attributing an accusation. It speaks in the first person and stops short of the second. That's not coy, it's careful. And careful is often the only way to be both honest and fair in public. The effect on Elçin's professional landscape was immediate but quiet. Meetings that were already on the calendar stayed on the calendar. A charity appearance remained a charity appearance. But the framing around those appearances shifted. Interviewers were briefed to keep questions on craft. Producers understood that if they invited her, they were inviting her on her terms. That's how you weather a storm, by refusing to mistake wind for direction. Let's rewind a step and look at the days leading up to the post, because context matters. Observers noticed a subtle tightening on her feed: fewer playful captions, more minimal images, a return to black and white frames. She locked comments on one photo, then unlocked them later. She skipped the easy brand collaborations that would have lifted engagement but cheapened the mood. None of that proves anything about her personal life, but it tells you about her discipline. She'll give you a story only when she has a story, and the story she chose to give was about a line that won't be crossed. The cultural reaction went global. In Spain and Latin America, regions where Turkish series have become appointment viewing, hashtags translated her sentence into local idioms. Women posted their own versions, attaching snapshots of milestones, a new apartment lease, a packed suitcase, a smiling brunch photo with friends who showed up on moving day. Men posted, too, about the hard work of becoming trustworthy, about second chances accepted and refused. It's rare for a celebrity post to detach from its original orbit and become communal language. This one did. Of course, not everyone cheered. Some opinion writers argued that public declarations about betrayal can backfire, inviting exactly the intrusion they resist. Others floated the idea that a famous person's private ethics have no place on the feed at all. But that's a narrow view of art and audience. The people who follow Elçin don't just follow a resume, they follow a worldview assembled through roles, choices, and a certain way of moving through the noise without becoming part of it. When she draws a bright line, it reads as part of that worldview. For many, it gave permission to set standards without apology. What about the predictable attempt to triangulate other names into the narrative? Yes, some corners of the internet tried to stitch the sentence onto old headlines, onto co-stars from past projects, onto any man who had appeared within 5 rows of her at a premiere. The impulse makes sense, a riddle begs a solution. But the stronger story here isn't who or when. It's why now and what next. Why now lives at the intersection of personal boundary and public fatigue. After a decade inside a culture that treats famous women's privacy like a scavenger hunt, a clean, declarative message functions as a kind of detox. It says, I won't make content out of this. I won't build a multi-part reveal. I won't cash in on my hurt. I'll state a principle and go back to work. In its own understated way, that's radical. What next is where the industry will watch most closely. Here are 3 signs worth tracking if you're interested in outcomes rather than headlines. Role selection. Artists often respond to life's shocks by choosing parts that metabolize them. If Elçin moves toward characters who carry steel under softness, who keep their center intact under pressure, that's not coincidence, that's craft turned into catharsis. Press texture. Pay attention not just to what she answers, but what she is never asked. Respectful rooms don't bait. If you see a run of interviews where the focus stays on process, prep, dialect, movement work, scene construction, you're seeing teams who understand the assignment. Community signals. Colleagues will speak without being prompted. Directors will thank her publicly for leadership. Actresses will repost her line weeks from now, when the cycle cools, as a way of saying, we saw it, and we needed it. A few days after the post, Elçin stepped onto a small stage at a fundraiser. Cameras flashed, mics reached. She posed for a couple of photographs with the organizers, thanked the crowd for donating, and kept her remarks brief. Life gives us all kinds of tests, she said. How we respond to them becomes our story. Mine is simple, keep going, keep working, keep your head up. It wasn't defiant. It wasn't dour. It was steady, the exact tone that has kept audiences attached to her from the start. There's a practical lesson here for anyone navigating public or private storms. You don't have to narrate your pain to have your boundary honored. You don't have to feed a storyline to make it real. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is reduce a complex moment to one clear line, and then refuse to gild it with anything that would make it less clear. Before we close, a note to the fandoms who keep conversations like this healthy. You did a beautiful thing this week, you amplified a value rather than a rumor. You wrote to one another about dignity instead of digging for clues. You let a sentence be a sentence. That's what it looks like to support a person rather than a narrative. That choice matters. So, what do you think? Was Elçin's line a shield, a signal, or both? Do you believe public principles can coexist with private grace in an industry that profits from exposure? Which roles would you love to see her tackle next, roles that turn that quiet strength into cinematic electricity? Tell me in the comments. Your insight shapes what we cover here on Turkish Spotlight Secrets. If this breakdown helped you see the bigger picture behind the headline, please hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. And if you want to help us keep making long-form, respectful coverage that puts people before clicks, consider joining as a channel member. Your support helps us research carefully, write thoughtfully, and bring you stories that honor both the audience and the artists. Thank you so much for watching my video. See you in the next one. Take care, and goodbye.